These skills are not working. Hey friend, what's going on? What do you mean these skills aren't working? I mean, yesterday I overslept, tried to radically accept that I overslept, validate myself, skipped breakfast, grabbed a large coffee on the way to work. Work was awful, the commute was awful, sat at my desk, didn't pack a lunch because I overslept, went out to eat, I could only get fast food, felt like crap after, went back to work, finished work was hard, commute was rough, listened to a pretty good podcast, traffic was rough, got home, felt too tired to make my own meal, went back out, got more fast food, was feeling kind of low, put on a show to distract myself, another skill you suggested, and while I was watching the show to distract myself, I grabbed my favorite beer, then I went to bed, but I couldn't sleep, my stomach hurt, and I tried to use the skill radical acceptance again, even opposite action by getting up and not staying in bed and looking at my phone like you suggested, and by that time I was asleep and it was 2 a.m. and I started all over again the next day. I see. It sounds like perhaps what could be helpful is the please skills. Didn't you hear what I just said? The skills aren't working. I did hear you, and I know it can be challenging to continue to hear somebody offer suggestions when you feel like the previous suggestions weren't working. What I am hearing is that they could be working. There are just a few things that are getting in the way, which brings us to the please skills. Okay, and these please skills are going to help me with the other skills I want to employ. How? So these skills are about taking care of your mind by taking care of your body. Look, I can't get up and go to the gym every single day. I can't even afford a gym membership. I'm barely getting to work on time. Were you even listening? That makes sense, and your frustration is entirely valid. I'm not suggesting something that is out of reach, and I wouldn't suggest something like going to the gym every single day if what you're having a hard time with is simply getting out of bed. Instead, let's work backwards and see if there are things we can do that are small that can kind of build on top of each other. Okay, well, let's get to it then, because I'm starting to feel kind of a cold come on, and I need that to just kind of get out of my system because I have to go to work tomorrow. That actually brings us to the first part of the please skills, which is treating physical illness. And I know that this is challenging for many people for many specific reasons, whether that's trying to find childcare, getting into the doctor in time, finding a doctor that takes your insurance, or even having the funds or the resources to get foods or medicines that you need to treat physical illness. So what do I do? Well, in this instance, do you have any medication or medicine you could take? Yes. Have you taken it? No. Okay. Could you? Yes, I can. That's awesome and a great first step. The second thing that we want to consider is balanced eating. I heard in what you shared with me that there were a lot of moments where you kind of had to think on your feet to get food and that the food you had to get wasn't maybe so great for where you were at. Oh, what? So now I can't eat out? Are you kidding me? Not exactly. I know that there are moments where fast food might be the only option available to you at that time. I'm saying that in those instances, we can still choose to eat mindfully. Maybe you don't get a full meal. Maybe you get just enough. And maybe you don't get a huge drink on the side. You get something a little smaller. And maybe instead of woofing it down because you're starving and it's so scrumptious and delicious, you can mindfully eat it and slow it down so that you know you are only eating to where you are full and not overeating. I don't know, man. There are just some days that only garbage food can fix. That makes a lot of sense. And I can see how that can be reinforced each time that emotion comes up. You think of that food and you want to go get it. We want to stay away from foods that make us overly emotional and could bring us into emotion mind. Because when we're overly emotional and in emotion mind, we tend to either undereat or overeat. Either way, not eating mindfully. Exactly. Okay, that makes sense. What's next? The third aspect of this skill is to avoid mood-altering substances. Now, I don't say this as a blanket statement or a prescription. This will be different for every single person. Some people have very different relationships with mood-altering substances than other people. Some people have to cut way back while others can still maintain use and build a life worth living. What's important is whether or not the use of these substances is affecting negatively your life worth living goals and if you're still able to be effective in the skills that you have. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm not down for the dogma all or nothing thinking. Me either. I am down for part 4 though, which is balanced sleep. We want to make sure we're getting enough sleep that makes us feel good each day. We want to make sure we're having a consistent sleep schedule and maintaining that sleep hygiene, especially if we're having a hard time falling and staying asleep. But life is unpredictable. What if something comes up and I end up missing my sleep schedule? I can't maintain my sleep hygiene. Like, what do I do? It's okay to miss 1 or 2 times when you want to get to sleep, especially if you're able to still recover the next day and then get right back to it. Remember, we want to walk the middle path and not beat ourselves up when we fall short occasionally, because we will. It's going to happen. And it can be helpful to make a pros and cons list when those situations do come up. In life, there will be opportunities to say no to things that, even though we really want to do it, are not effective for our life worth living goals. If something comes up that, say, you want to do, like go out with friends, and you want to get to bed at the same time you got to last night, It's up to you to decide which will be most effective for your life worth living goals. If you're able to go out with your friends and get to bed and maybe even sleep in the next day without it interrupting or disrupting the effectiveness of your skills, amazing. That might not work for everybody. So make sure you're checking in with yourself. Okay, all right, I get that. What's next? The last part of this skill is get exercise. Ugh, I hate going to the gym, DBT Fairy. I hear you on that one. A lot of people feel that way. Thankfully, the gym is not the only way we can exercise. It is an effective way to exercise for a lot of people. For those that it isn't, though, remember, there are lots of other ways to move our bodies. Yoga, walking, going to the park, taking your dog for a walk, going to a spin class, riding your bike, playing pickleball, playing tennis, walking up and down the stairs while listening to a podcast, and endless other ways to move our bodies outside of the gym. Okay. So if I understand you correctly, I can't just focus cerebrally on these skills. I need to also take into consideration how my body feels and how my body is impacting my mind and my processing of these skills. Yes, exactly. That makes perfect sense. Do you feel like you have enough information now to go give it a shot? I do. Thank you. You're welcome. And remember, be gentle with yourself, be compassionate. It's going to take a few times and a few tries. Walk the middle path. Don't beat yourself up. Don't split into black and white thinking. And remember, you can always get back on the horse if you fall off. I'm here if you need some support, okay?